up, everybody? Welcome back to Voices from the Mausoleum, and welcome back to another Halloween edition of Found Footage Fridays with my co-host, Big Bird.
Or me.
That's right.
Either way.
Either way. I'll take the, I'd rather at least be, because if that thing starts talking, I'm going to have to exit out of this real quick.
This has nothing to do with the movie we're talking about. It's really weird.
Although, with the Winnie the Pooh movie and the Grinch movie, who knows?
I mean, once Sesame Street becomes available to everybody, who knows what'll happen with it.
That's right.
Oh, yeah.
We could be talking about a Big Bird found footage film. You never know.
I don't even want to know. That's too dark for me.
Yeah, ruin everyone's childhood.
Yeah. The nicest fictional character that was ever created.
Oh, I know.
Yeah. I don't know.
That would break everyone. Yes. Yeah. Okay. So today we are talking the brand new Shudder original found footage film, Deadstream.
Yeah. Yes.
Yep.
It's I'm gonna call this. I know we always try to find labels and try to categorize some of these subgenres of found footage film. How about popular found footage, pop found footage? Because I would classify this as one of those new found footage movies that comes out that everybody's talking about, and it feels like it's like part of pop culture. So whereas a lot of found footage movies, I feel like are, you have to score the dark web to find them.
I know what you mean, and this is very mainstream.
Very mainstream.
Deadstream is very mainstream.
Deadstream is mainstream.
Yes. Yeah. No, you're right. Everyone and their mother is talking about this movie right now.
Which is why we have to talk about it.
And
all people, we can't be the ones not talking about it.
Yeah, that would be strange. And to be fair, we were also really excited about there being new stuff to watch too, rather than, go back chills with stuff. So, Okay, so let's see here. So Deadstream currently is sitting at 6.6 out of 10 on IMDb, a 91% on Rotten Tomatoes, a 4.3 out of 5 on Shudder, and a 92% on Google. A disgraced internet personality tries to win back his followers by live streaming himself at an abandoned haunted house. When he accidentally unleashes a vengeful spirit, his comeback event becomes a fight for his life.
91% on Rotten Tomatoes. Is there another found footage movie that has a rating that high? I mean, I'd like to compare it to like Incantation and the Blair Witch Project, for God's sakes. Like,
I know.
Nice.
I don't
91%.
I bet you could.
That's what I mean. Like, this is like bleeding into pop culture right now.
I'm gonna hit the button because I wonder out of. Okay. So it's 91% based off of their reviewers. It only has 53 reviews at 91, but the audience of over 100, it just has 100 and plus. I don't know how far up that goes, is a 79.
I mean, still.
No, I know, but the 91 had me like, meh.
I mean, we reviewed movies on here that we liked that had probably like 10%.
This pisses me off. This is the comment under it. What to know? Critics' consensus, proof that there's still life in the found footage gimmick.
That's coming from somebody who doesn't actually know anything about found footage.
Yeah, that's fighting words. Yeah. Whatever, man.
Whatever.
You know what you're talking about. Okay. So.
91%. That's
crazy.
That's crazy.
Let's do our review, our numbers.
Full disclosure, I have no idea what you think about this movie. I know you've been dying to talk about it, but I don't know why. So that could go either way.
Yep.
You could really like this movie, or you could be really annoyed with all the buzz it's getting.
Maybe both. You never know.
Could be both.
So do you want to give yourself suspense and you go first, or do you want me to give my rating first?
I think you should go first.
Okay. Okay.
I have suspicions, but
I think it's funny how we're starting to kind of understand the thought process each other has the longer we talk about these movies. So,
yes.
but it's funny when we still surprise each other.
Oh yeah. I love
Okay.
that. I love it when that happens.
Yeah, it is fun. Okay, so my rating for Deadstream out of 10 tapes is a 4 out of 10.
What? Wow, that's low. That's low.
I know.
So I'm not gonna be that low.
Yeah.
Full disclosure, I thought my rating was going to be very high.
I thought mine was too.
When the movie started.
Yeah.
And it slowly got lower as the movie went along.
Yep.
I think I rested. I think I'm going to give it, and I've wrestled with this one is really tough for me because
I've thought about that. Well, and keep in mind, I watched this twice to try to change my own opinion of it.
Oh, you've seen it. See, I was going to say, I think this will be a good rewatch. Eventually,
I think my
or even with
rewatch
friends, like this could be a fun one to watch with friends.
Yeah.
I am going to give this 6.5 tapes out of 10. So that's pretty. I mean, that's pretty good. That's
a solid 4. Everybody else is like eating it up right now, and I'm like,
yeah. Everybody who doesn't. So I think what's happening is there are people who like this that are not necessarily found footage fans.
Yep.
Which is cool. I mean, I thought again, it's part of the mainstream, so there's a lot more people watching it who don't really watch this genre a lot.
Yeah.
You're probably hearing like a lot of people compare this to another very famous franchise that's out there. And so I think a lot of those people are really super into this for obvious reasons.
Yep.
But if you're someone who wasn't a huge fan of that series, which we haven't said what it is yet, because that's sort of spoilery.
Yeah, we don't have to say. I haven't said it. Yeah, we can wait.
Then you may not love this movie as much. So yeah, 6.5 for me without giving anything away.
Okay.
And that went down a lot as the movie went along.
Yeah.
It was a lot higher at the start.
So this really made me present tense makes me want to change my score for that hotel movie that we watched.
The Followed, is that?
Yes.
Followed.
Yeah.
Yes, because like I want everyone who loves this movie, who loves
to go watch that one.
And I wonder with the filmmakers, the people who made Followed, they must be like pulling their hair out because their movie, and I don't even remember what our ratings were for that. Like I don't even know.
I gave it a 6, I think, and you rated it like an 8 or something. It was
higher than this, higher than Deadstream.
We both rated that one higher than this one.
And I'm sorry to say, it's better.
It's better.
It's better than Deadstream.
It made me appreciate the format better. And it's like, I thought about that after I rewatched it for the second time. I wanted to pull my own hair out. And I was like, I was really unkind to that film. I need to change. My rating should actually be higher than it was. It's like, it gave me like a due appreciation for it.
It's a good point. It's good that you mentioned that because this movie isn't that sort of take on found footage isn't original anymore. Like it's been done a number of times, but unless you watch a lot of these obscure found
footage movies, know that.
You don't know that. So you think this is some really new, unique take on the genre, and it's definitely not. We sound like such huge nerds right now. talking about this.
No, but you're right though,
Yeah.
because that was my biggest thing. Okay, so I did a 1 minute review that I posted on YouTube. That's always do those. They're very quick. But I've decided when I watch found footage movies and I review them and we are going to talk about them, I don't give my score. I say, you know, if you want to find out the score, you're going to have to watch Found Footage Fridays to find out what my score is. But I said 3 things that I think I still feel very strongly. It wasn't that funny, it wasn't that scary, and it was not that original. And the fact that people are treating this like it broke new ground in the found footage subgenre irritates me to no end because it didn't. Yep. It even starts out wacky, stupid, like Followed. I immediately thought of that movie.
The start is the same. Now, here's what I'll say about that is I like that. Like I
was fine with it. Yeah,
how
sure.
Followed starts. I liked how this movie starts at the beginning.
Yeah.
I think one thing I'll disagree with is I did think that there were scary moments in this movie. And I did think there were funny moments in this movie. I didn't think the scary and the funny went really well together. Mm-hmm. And so when it was scary, it was scary. When it was funny, it was funny. When they tried to be funny and scary at the same time, it was neither. And it definitely wasn't. It wasn't, the basic premise wasn't original. Where they went with it was different. And it was combining this with, with
it reminded me of like, I hate to say this because this is like kind of overly insulting and I don't necessarily mean for it to be. It kind of reminded me of some things that I didn't like about Dashcam. Not to that extreme, obviously.
I've heard a little bit about this, but the character.
The character was very reminiscent of like but he was redeemable. He wasn't a character that like I was just like, please die a horrible, painful death on camera.
He was more he was annoying, and he actually did get scared at times. Like the character in Dashcam, she doesn't ever really seem to.
But her sense of like her trying to be funny didn't mesh with the scary, which is kind of what reminded me of that. And this is that, like those two things. So, and I don't disagree that there's not funny moments. I did laugh when he said demonetize her, demonetize. That doesn't ruin anything. That's just a quote, but it was just like, that made me laugh.
There was some funny stuff, and like his titling of some of, the cameras.
His scream every time he screamed, I laughed.
Funny. I mean, again, we're not spoiling yet, but like, I wrote down some things that he said. Yeah, his scream. His scream was
hysterical. Every time he screamed, I giggled every time.
One thing I give it this movie extra points for.
Mm-hmm.
Is that this is another example of a movie where, like, I think like basically one guy and did everything for this movie. Like he directed it. I think he directed. I'm not sure. He starred in it. He was a writer, an editor. Like, I mean, he did everything. I don't know if he did like the music, but like he did like he did do the music. He did do the. I wrote it down. So like he just did a lot, and I think anybody who does that sort of thing, whether it's Nigel, what's his face from the Bad Ben series, or like M. Night Shyamalan himself, like I'm always really impressed. And I guess M. Night is not like he's not walking around himself.
I know what you
don't mean that. I just mean like the people who do everything, or a lot of it. I think that's really impressive. And this guy's name is Joseph Winter, and and I think I could be wrong. I feel like he did this with like, I don't know if it's his wife or like, I don't know. It's a pretty small scale. And so when you think of it like that, I mean, I'm sure the budget was more than like the $300 or whatever that
it had to
the Bad Ben guy had. But like,
right.
The special effects and the makeup alone. But like they did a good job with whatever they had. Of course, they had the backing of Shudder, which can't hurt either. Yeah. So spoil it. Should we spoil this thing?
Yeah.
Yeah. So this, what would you call it? He's a YouTuber, right?
Yeah, he's a content creator.
Content creator. who he's trying to make a comeback, and it's this channel called The Wrath of Sean or something like that. I wrote it down. And he's like his whole thing is he faces his fears, and he's essentially an incredibly obnoxious human being who's annoying the police and just getting into all sorts of trouble for views. And he did something bad that got himself kicked off or demonetized or whatever, and who's making his comeback. And to make his comeback, he's going to go spend an evening in Death Manor, which was built in 1880, he says. There's a whole host of murders or whatnot that have happened, or people have died in this house. And so like that had me right off the bat. Like, you're going to go spend it. That's the case for me with a movie. With a book, I've read a number of books where the whole premise, Kill Creek and 12 Nights at Rotterhouse are a couple that recent horror novels that come to mind, where the whole premise is they're spending a night in a purportedly haunted house. And so that's what this is. I love that. I do think the live stream thing, which has been done, it does work, especially for that sort of a thing. And that was some of the most effective moments, where you actually see the comments scrolling by and the people who are seeing what's happening on all the cameras he has set up. And like that kind of thing, I love that. That was great. And even though he was ridiculous, it's still those moments at the beginning still were scary, I thought.
Yeah.
No, you didn't think so.
Okay.
Go for it.
So
spit it out.
There are a couple things that I was like, ooh, like, okay. But I make it known pretty regularly that anything that is horror or is a horror comedy is a much more difficult sell for me, because I don't care for them. I like serious, dark, gritty horror. And so I do have horror comedies that I absolutely love, that I thought were fantastic, that work. And this was, I went into this thinking like, I knew I had to go in a little more open-minded than I normally do for found footage, because of the fact that I knew it was supposed to be comedic.
Yeah.
So from the start, we start like we do in Followed. And I was like, okay. And I really liked that one. So I was like, all right, okay. And he's funny. He was engaging. I was involved. I was invested. We get in the house, and honestly, it had me for about the first half. It really didn't start plummeting for me until the second half, which is unfortunate, because there are some things that happen in the second half that are really good.
Yeah.
Like there's, the child thing, the kid on the bed with like the weird thing coming out, like that was really cool.
Yeah.
And the seeing something walk by, seeing the feet going up into the ceiling, like those moments.
Oh yeah.
Were effective, but they didn't get to last very long because of the silliness that was either right before or right after. And it just kept breaking up the experience for me. And I just don't, it's hard because I'm kind of like, I feel more strongly, I think, about kind of like what you said about the fact that like the two didn't mesh well together, because sometimes that's like that's what makes horror comedies work for me, is they they flow really well. They make sense. The pieces are adding something together. This felt too comedic for me. And it was like so funny and so like over the top silly sometimes, like his damn potato cannon in the backseat of his car. And like some of these things, I just was like, I feel like I'm like at like a frat party, like a frat party haunted house or something. And that's not like an energy that works for me in found footage or really anything.
I'm the same way with like horror in general. Like I've said this before, like I don't really love when my horror is mixed with comedy.
Yeah.
But I similarly knew that going into this movie, and I knew this was going to be funny. So I tried to be like,
I did
really
too,
objective, and just sort of step back and say like, okay, you don't like, you're funny in your horror, but like pretend that's not the case and just try to enjoy this movie. And
yeah, and I try to to quote one of my new favorite comments that we've ever gotten, check my brain at the door. I tried really
oh my
hard. I was like, I was like,
shout out to that guy.
I'm just gonna be like, okay, I'm not gonna,
Yeah.
but you know what I think? I think what really tore it apart is the two big things for me that made me not enjoy this film or like not ever want to watch it again, is that I thought it was too comedic, too silly, too over the
silly is
top.
the word.
It was silly. Yeah, it wasn't funny. It was silly. There's a difference for me.
Yep.
And then I think the fact that it pulled from so many other things, like while that gives some people happy, good feelings, it irritated me because one of my favorite things about found footage is that it forces you to be creative and come up with unique ways to tell your story. And there was, to me, nothing unique about this story.
Not too. There were not a lot. There was some stuff that was unique in that. I'm not sure there's a found footage movie where like the monster horror is as like visible as it is in this movie for so much of the movie, like the second half of the movie. Like essentially it's Evil Dead. And right, we haven't said that yet. Essentially that's what happens at the end of this movie. And like as far as like the heavy makeup and like the close-ups of the
sounds,
their faces, the sounds, like I don't know that there's another of this genre that really gets there. So like I thought that was cool. The stuff with the cameras, we've seen that. I mean, his take on it was he had sort of funny labels for a lot of these different cameras he had around the house. My favorite being the Mill Dead cam, which I really liked. He put it right on dead Mildred's head. So I like that. I mean, there was this super fan that appears and shows up. Were you surprised that was Mildred? No, I mean, like, so, but that was different. Trying to think.
Well, so that reminds me a lot of our, well, it's kind of a spoiler for another movie. That's been done before, though.
Which part?
Like the bringing somebody in, they're a pretend friendly, and they end up having this much bigger.
I guess it probably has.
Yeah, that's been done before. So anything related to her, I immediately thought of one of my favorite found footage movies of all time, and I was like, so it just kind of all of these similarities, other things got under my skin.
There was the scene where he injects holy water into thing's head and it explodes. So that was a first.
That one actually made me laugh because it's like he didn't know it was going to do that, and he's just standing there like, probably like anybody really would be. Anybody in the real world would be like, really, if that happened to them. He just stands there with this blank look like, I cannot believe I am even doing this right now.
it just gets so crazy, but like I know there's a lot of people that like love that and like loved that, like loved the Evil Dead movies, and clearly that's what they were going for with this. So I mean, unlike a lot of found footage where you don't see a lot of anything,
you get a lot of
literally see nothing in the Blair Witch Project, except some sticks hanging from trees. This is like, you could not be more opposite. You see everything, and so that was great. But the scariest parts were when you didn't really see anything, or you sort of heard something. Like that stuff in this movie was I thought the most effective. Like you could actually, like, I try to take a lot of notes, and so like I'm watching this movie and like you can see where it changes for me. Like I'm like raving about this, just the sound of the movie and the footsteps and all the creaks and everything, and it was just so effective and creepy. And his obliviousness to this was like, it actually worked. I
Mhm.
think, at the beginning. And
Yeah. No,
one
I
big
agree.
problem we often have is like the why do they still keep filming? Why do they not get up and leave? And he had a really good reason, even when he was terrified at the beginning, because he needed to get these followers back, which again, that has been done. That was done in Followed.
Even the
And
sponsorship thing, they were like, "Oh, you're
mhm,
gonna lose your sponsorship."
like, yeah, again, I wonder what those guys are thinking, because that was eerily similar, that whole concept. But regardless, it was it's fun. I will say this. It is really fun. I thought it was really fun. And even though definitely was not, but in the end, I wasn't really scared by it. I thought it
Yeah.
was scary at the beginning. And I guess I didn't think it was like incredibly funny. But it was fun and it was ridiculous. And I can sort of picture myself sitting around with a group of people just hanging out and watching that and laughing at it and having a good time with it. And so if that's what you're looking for, I imagine you would like this movie.
Yeah, I think a majority of the ones that are like over the moon with it are definitely people that watch this style of film, not necessarily the found footage, but like this comedic, silly,
Yeah,
whatever. They're like really into that, I would guess. Just because I mean, I don't and I think like that really was hard for me. And like I said, the fact that I felt like it just was so much like so many other things, it's like where was its identity to be its own,
yeah,
you
yeah.
know? I don't know. And I am like, and I, like I said, I definitely laughed. I thought there were some moments that were just kind of like, ooh, like when you start seeing the messages about the thing outside the door, I
That
was
was
like,
great. Yeah.
ooh, that was good, you know? But I felt, but like the second half of it, and you know what? I'm not the biggest Evil Dead fan, and maybe that's part of
Um,
it. Like, not because I hate those movies, but because I just they're just not they just don't like sing to me like they do for so many people.
yeah,
And I think that that's yeah, I just don't like that style, the over the top like makeup and constant and I've said this before too. I don't want to see things that often, you
sure.
know. And I know a lot of this, of course, the being able to see her so often and this the cop outside so often is because there was so much comedy to be had in those scenes. But
Yeah.
yeah, this was a miss for me. I'm bummed. I do think that I semi understand the love for it. Like I definitely am like all for found footage getting attention. I'm all for
Yep.
people finding things in this subgenre that work for them because what makes me happy is not going to be the same that makes you happy or any of these other viewers. So I'm very very happy that there are more and more people that are kind of coming into this world of found footage because it's such a fun way to do horror. And I
Mhm.
think that at its very core that's what this did. And
Yep.
I understand all of that. I just this was just not I really thought that the reason I didn't like it is because I was distracted when I was watching it the first time. So
Ye
I made myself rewatch it because I
Just to
wanted to
make
make
sure.
sure like I gave it a fair chance, you know?
Yep.
I was distracted, I think, because it just wasn't keeping my attention. The first half had me. The second half, not so much.
So what for you, what
Mhm.
has worked? You said there are some instances in which there have been movies where the horror and the
Like
comedy.
horror comedies.
Yeah, like what worked for you?
I consider Cabin in the Woods a horror comedy.
Okay, yeah.
Cabin in the Woods, but Cabin in the Woods is dark, even though it's funny.
Well done. Yeah.
Black Christmas is one of my favorite horror comedies. It's like more
Okay.
like a satire, I guess, but you get the point.
Yeah.
Your Next is a horror comedy. Happy
Hmm.
Death Day,
Yeah.
movies like that. I think
They're not silly though. Yeah.
they're not silly. And see, so that's what I think for me, it has to be more horror with like
Yeah.
moments of relief from the tension, maybe. Although Happy Death Day was pretty kind of over the top, but that one was just a slash. Slashers have like a whole nother rating
That's
system
different.
on their own. You know what I mean?
Yep. Yep.
Um, but Cabin in the Woods was dark, and I think, and Your Next was pretty dark and a lot of gore.
Hmm.
I don't know. I think it just has to be very light comedy. It has to be a horror movie with comedy in it. It can't be a comedy with gore. Like, to me, that's not a horror movie, you know?
And so what's going to happen, though, you prepare yourself with this movie. This movie is going to end up on every
I know.
Going forward.
I know.
And everyone who thinks they know this genre, they're going to... Have you seen Deadstream? I've already seen it.
Like they're on some like elevated information. Yeah, no, I know. So, and you know what? Every time I see that, you know what I'm going to do? Very friendly, of course. I'm going to say, well, if you really like that, you should check out Followed. That's what I'm going to
say. Came out like 10 years before or something like that. I don't know how long ago that came out, but like,
yeah.
And it's not even the only one. There are There are a number of these like live stream or, you know, content creators, like a lot.
Yeah, it's a new subgenre. Like, in and of it's like a new subgenre to the subgenre. I mean, how you could even say that Grave Encounters has done, like, because I mean, I know it's a TV show, but it's the same premise as far as like.
And that one, they're going into they're spending a night in a
haunted place. Yeah,
definitely had that vibe towards the beginning. There are multiple, though, where they have that sort of like that streaming interaction where you have people witnessing what's going on behind them. Like, I can't even off the top of my head think of what some of those others are other than Followed, because we recently talked about it. But there's a few.
Dashcam had the chat.
Oh yeah, Dashcam did too. I will say, like, I've seen a lot of people comparing her, is it Annie in that movie, to this guy. She was way worse. Like, I don't even think it's way worse. Like, I don't know.
This guy just reminded me of like, okay, so let me back up then, because I did make that comparison. I more meant that this was a better way to make a despicable character, because he's frustrating and he does things, and then you find out what it is and you're like, oh, that is kind of messed up. Like, you know, and he says things, these like racist things, and like, you're kind of like, okay. But then
I think he also is a character. Like, that's really important to know.
No, well, that's true too, but it's also, and it's not as over the top, and it's not who he is in real life. And he still had moments where you wanted to let him be redeemable. And I never felt that way about Annie. Never. But and that's more what I meant. I think if you're going to make and again, you're right, she's not a character, but if you're going to make a character that is despicable and their whole arc is to redeem themselves from this thing that they did or from who they used to be, and they're trying to be better or whatever, this is a much better way to do that, because I think that concept was well done and believable, and I bought into all of that, you know, like and there's some things he said in particular where he has the hand on the floor. And he says, he's like, this is for this group of people and this group of people. And he turned the camera and the hand looks like his.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah. Some of that was really good. And that's what I'm saying.
That part was
moments. But when I was like, I found myself like laughing really hard at some of those moments.
Yeah.
And I wasn't in a scary movie anymore.
I know. I think
those are funny movie sort of moments, you know. Like,
yeah, I think this actually, and I can't even believe I'm saying this because I don't like this type of movie. This almost, I think, would have been better as a parody, because it's so comedic.
So close to one. Yeah, it's so
that it's like, you know, and I don't normally like parodies, but I think I would have probably liked this more if it was like respectfully making fun of the genre. Like, I could have gotten behind that. But the stuff that, you know, I think it could have easily have been either by itself. It could have been an effective scary movie without all that comedy in it.
Yeah.
Or equally, it could have been a parody. And I probably would have actually enjoyed it, because there was some really funny moments. I did laugh.
And that does make a lot of sense, because it wasn't original. They were sort of like, it actually almost was a parody, except it wasn't. You know what I mean?
Like, unintentionally a parody.
Yeah. And you're right. That's what worked. That would have worked really well.
Yeah.
That would have been like a really funny parody. if they'd gone that
If
direction.
they had just done that like thing.
Yeah.
I'm serious, like not trying to be hokey, but I really am glad that people enjoyed it because I like that it's opening these doors for
I
people who
was
maybe want to look into other stuff in the found footage thing. And honestly, I feel the same way about Halloween Ends. I know people are mad, but I'm just glad it's meaningful for some people. Some
Yep.
people really enjoy Deadstream. Like, I mean, really most. I think I'm like the only one, but like everyone else in the world is enjoying it while I'm not. And like, it's great. I think it's fantastic. People are sharing it. People are
Yep.
seeing it. They're going and checking it out because so many people like it. I think that's great.
It's more visible, and
Yeah.
that is a good thing. If you like, I mean, generally speaking, if you like found footage, you want found footage movies to have success.
Yes.
And so like this could be for some people their Blair Witch, meaning this could be what gets
Yes.
them interested in the genre, or what
Yep.
caught their eye and pulls them in.
Exactly.
Maybe 10 years from now there's I don't know, maybe there's a teenager watching this movie now who years from now ends up making the next great found footage movie. So you
You're
never
right.
know, and
You're right.
that's why I don't want to root against this movie at all.
No, I don't mean that at
And
all.
that's
No.
why I still think 6.5 for me means I like the movie. I want to be clear. I did like this movie. I just like different parts of it separate from each other.
If I being totally honest, if we took the film and we split it in half, I would
Sure. Yep.
probably have rated the first half like a 7.
Yeah.
And
Yep.
then the second half probably like a 3. So
Yeah.
I kind of had to like think of it as like a whole because I mean
It is
that's
a
how it
movie. It's a
works.
movie.
And
Yep.
that just brought it like way down because that first half I felt like was really strong, but then it
Yeah.
just got too much for me, I think.
Yeah. And that's
So
fair. It is. Yep.
yeah, but no, I'm happy it's doing well. I'm happy people are checking out the genre and falling in love with found footage. That's how it should be. So I'm totally good with all of those things.
Keep sending these movies our way. Keep making them.
Yes.
I will watch them.
Yes.
Forever. So
yeah, 100% agree.
And they can't all be good. They can't all be our favorites.
Yeah, they're not all going to be our number one influential found footage movie.
They shouldn't be.
No, and that's the point, right? Because you can do so much with found footage, and that's what makes it so much fun.
Yeah, and this isn't gonna be the last live streamer like found footage sort of thing. There's gonna be more because that's actually think there will be more of that sort of angle on found footage than maybe the traditional camera in the woods, which was why it was kind of cool. Recently, we saw was it Cronewood, where it was
kind
just
of going back to those roots.
Yeah, just going. So someone had a handheld cam. Or was it a cell phone? I guess, but
either way, though, yeah, same kind of feel.
I want more of that, honestly, than this. Although I've seen this be really effective, like we've said with the film Followed and others.
Yeah.
So.
And it's super relevant because there's so many people who do this. We're doing it. You know what I mean? Like
this could be a found footage movie right now.
We need that little warning. Whoopsh. On a Tuesday.
So all of a sudden my screen's going to get all pixelated and freeze up. And when it comes back, I'll be gone.
Sometimes when we talk about found footage movies, that actually like scared me. Or like when we were talking about Savage Land, I did keep looking like behind me in my like, because I was getting so uncomfortable. We were talking.
Yeah.
It's like,
I know. We've watched too many of these movies.
We know what happens when you record things about scary stuff.
So what's the next one we're watching? Then?
Yeah. So
another new
as
one.
We are recording this, we are 2 days away from VHS 99 coming out on Shudder. And so we will 1,000% be talking about that next week.
Actually on the day this releases, right? The day this goes up live.
It comes out the day before.
It
comes out on Thursday.
Okay.
But yeah, so by the time you're watching this, VHS 99 is on Shudder. I think people should give it a chance because I think it really is something that is going to appeal to the masses. I definitely am like comfortable in my little box being the minority on this one, but
absolutely.
Yeah. So definitely check out Deadstream. It is on Shudder. And so will VHS 99 by the time you watch this.
All right.
And all of the other VHSs, for anyone curious, they are all on Hulu. So 1, 2, Viral, and 94, even though it's a Shudder, I don't know how that works, but they're all on Hulu. And I think at the very least, 94 is still on Shudder because it's a Shudder original.
So.
But
yeah.
But anyway, so that's all we have for Deadstream.
Yeah. Thanks for tuning in.
Yeah. Next, see you next week for VHS 99.
See you then.